Hello and welcome to Galactic Wisdom. It's good to be back with you. Thank you for joining me today. I'm not in my car today, which makes a pleasant change. I am going to talk to you today about, first of all, Area 51. I am going to show you one or two videos that I recorded while I was looking at Area 51. One UFO or UAP, definitely something unidentified that I'd like to share with you. And I am also going to then talk to you about the subject of today, truth or death. A little bit like truth or dare, but would you prefer truth or death? Which might sound like a silly question to ask, but in my experience, lots of people are choosing death over truth. And I would like to try and help those people in today's session. And maybe you are one of those people I could help. So yeah, I went to Tikaboo Peak and looked at Area 51 probably about 3 weeks ago now. And I'm going to pull up some photos here. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps. Area 51 is over on the left-hand side of the screen there. There's a large white area, a flat area, and all around that whole area is the Area 51 complex. If you were to zoom in on that on Google Maps, you could see the runways, buildings and entrances to underground bases and things like that. And on the right-hand side of the screen, to the left of Alamo, there is a place called Tikaboo Peak. And from that road that goes through Alamo and Ash Springs, there is over 20 miles of dirt track to get up to Tikaboo Peak. So I drove over 20 miles in a high clearance four-wheel drive to get as close to Tikaboo Peak as I could, but it's still an hour and a half to 3 hours hike from there, depending on how fit you are, to get up to Tikaboo Peak. But from Tikaboo Peak, you can look almost directly west and you can see Area 51. And I'm going to show videos of Area 51 in a short while, but I'm going to show you one or two other images, first of all, that show how hard it is to get to Tikaboo Peak trailhead. This is the kind of stream that washes through the dirt road there. And I don't think you can see in this image just how severe this drop down and back up is. But basically, I had to drive my Jeep here down and up through a small dry stream. And when I came across it the first time, I thought, oh, no, my Jeep is not going to be able to handle that. But I risked it and I succeeded twice. So once there and on the way back. So I was happy about that. And this is me on my hike up to Tikaboo Peak. You can see I'm starting to get a really good view from up here. It was not an easy hike. A lot of the hike was walking over this sort of rocky terrain, and I'm sitting down here on the mountainside here, and you can see you can't really tell, but this is extremely steep, this slope, and it's not steep enough that you could really fall down it, but you could definitely fall and hurt yourself quite badly on this loose rock. And it was here that I sat and waited for the sun to set before I went up over kind of a false peak before you get to Tikaboo Peak. And it was here when I was doing things like taking photographs on my phone that I saw a flash in the sky in front of me. Now in this image, Area 51 is behind me. So there was a flash in front of me in the daytime sky before the sun had set. And it was big and it was bright, and it caused me to look up from my phone to see what was going on. And I saw the flash diminishing, and it seemed to be a bright object that was diminishing again into the daytime sky. And I waited and I watched, and nothing else happened. And I don't know, when something happens just once, you think maybe you imagined it. But a few minutes later, up in the sky closer to me, to my right, coming towards me, as though circling me, there was a fire in the sky that emerged out of nowhere, moved along a bit, and then disappeared. It was not human tech, and it was not a natural phenomenon. There was an alien craft that came into the sky when I was sitting here, moved along a bit, observing me, and then disappeared. And it came around above me for a third time, and then half an hour later, in front of me again, there was a non-human phenomenon that was observing me when I was at this point here. And I'm going to take that off. And when I finally got up to Tikaboo Peak after it was dark, and I looked across at Area 51, I started recording with my night vision camera, and within a few seconds, something appeared in the sky over Area 51, and I've recorded it, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute. Now, it was small and it was brief, at least it was small in my viewfinder, and it was brief, and I didn't notice it until I got home and analyzed this video footage. So I'm going to show you this video footage now of the sky above Area 51. And it's just a 5-minute segment of me saying something like, so that over there is Area 51, flash. And I'm going to play the segment a few times in this short video clip. And each time I will zoom in a little bit on the flash. And also I will then slow it down a bit. So this is what I saw, a UFO or a UAP, something unidentified over Area 51.
So that is Area 51. So that is Area 51. So that is Area 51. So that is Area 51.
I wish I could slow my voice down and sound like that, just without technology. That would be fun. But yes, that was clearly, I mean, the color blue. What is there flying around up in the sky that is the color blue? You've got planes with their red light on one wing and green light on the other. That blue was not a typical human-made light. And it was in comparison to Area 51, it was quite a long way off. That was very bright. That was very bright and very big. And it wasn't just a quick pulse. So it wasn't a quick flash or strobe. It was a pulse that lasted a period of time. And it appears in that video maybe to have two bright lobes to it. So yeah, very cool. That was my UFO experience that I videoed over Area 51. And I recorded up there for, about 2 hours. And I'm going to show you now a speeded up. This is going to be about actually 90 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. This is going to be about 90 minutes of recording condensed into 20 seconds, looking across at Area 51, and look at the different things moving in the video, which you can see moving faster because this is speeded up. Okay, so obviously there was the moon in there. That was not a big mothercraft coming into land. You can see the stars moving down like this as the Earth is spinning around like this. And the moon is also coming down like this because the Earth is moving around like this. And so you had a very nice moon set there, which I personally think is the highlight of that short video. But also in the foreground in that video, you've got, at the time I noticed a light that was moving towards me down low. And I couldn't tell at the time if that was a helicopter flying towards me from Area 51, or if it was a patrol vehicle, or if it was an orb. Now looking at the video, I can tell that there are headlights in front of it. That is a patrolling vehicle between Area 51 and Tikaboo Peak, which is where I was. And you can see that it comes towards me, but it decides to stop and then turn around and go back the other way. So they almost certainly knew I was there because there are video cameras up on a tower just where I was. So they knew I was there. Maybe that patrol was called out because they knew I was there and they were making sure that I wasn't trying to approach Area 51. I'm sure I would have got arrested had I got any closer. So those are the three videos that I took at, those are two of the videos that I took at Area 51. Now, when I looked north, so I turned 90 degrees to the right and looked north, I noticed that there was unusual streams of lights in the sky. Now, nothing about the streams suggests to me that they were alien craft, but the quantity of them seemed very odd to me. So at 2 a.m. in the morning, looking north from Tikaboo Peak, which is close to Area 51, I saw streams of I'm going to say this again, an unending stream of lights moving from west, which is where Area 51 is, to the east. And I'm going to play you this speeded up so that you can see these streams of light in the right-hand side of the screen. And I'd be interested to know what you think about this video and what they might be. Okay, so at times there are 5, 6, 7 lights all streaming off upwards into the sky. And I've seen that same type of stream of lights in various different areas of the country where there are UFO hotspots. And as I said, I don't think that's alien tech necessarily, but it's a very odd quantity of human craft or any craft streaming up from the surface, going up higher into the sky. I've seen that notably where the Marfa lights are take place. I've seen that also once up in a northern state. I can't remember where that was, Minneapolis or something. Yeah, so that's interesting. Now, I don't know what that was. What I would like to do is go and record the sky somewhere like LAX at nighttime to see in a busy, one of the busier international airports, how busy is the sky if you speed it up, because that was only about 8 minutes of video footage, and they were probably 30, 40 different craft that you could see in that video. And either it's just extremely busy with Air Force, and the Air Force is much busier at nighttime than we know about, or or a theory, a speculation, not something I know, not something I have a lot of evidence for, but, oh, sorry about that. I've got people visiting the house and they're just about to make a noise. Maybe you've got streams of UFOs that are coming up, alien craft that are leaving late at night. Maybe there's a lot more alien activity that happens at nighttime or at any time of the day with craft streaming up into the sky. So that is a possibility. Now, the subject that I would really like to talk to you today about is the title of this show, which is Truth or Death. And the question, truth or death, is a very serious question. I've got people coming in here. I'm just going to let them know when they come in that I'm recording or podcasting. And a question I would like to ask is, would you prefer to know the truth or whatever evidence I have that reinforces your beliefs? And it's actually very common. You would think that people would say, well, of course, I want to know the truth. But actually, in my experience, people want to know whatever I can offer them that reinforces their beliefs. Now, a lot of people who have beliefs think that the truth and their beliefs are the same thing, but actually they're not. A lot of people believe in things that I know to be not true. And, people might think, well, what harm is there in that? If you have your beliefs, what harm is there in that? Let people think what they want to think. And, I don't go to people and deliberately interfere in their beliefs. But a lot of people's beliefs cause death. A lot of people's beliefs cause their own deaths prematurely. A lot of people's beliefs cause the death of others prematurely. And so this is a big problem with the human race. Now, this show is called Galactic Wisdom. I'm trying to teach people what I consider to be wise. And I'm doing this show here today not to criticize anybody, not to say, you're bad for believing in this. I'm hosting today's show because I would like to help people, because when I see people harming their health, even to the extent that they're dying because of their beliefs, I would like to try and help them to not harm themselves and certainly also not harm others. So this show here is not about me saying you're wrong, you're bad. This is about me trying to help people to maybe open up their eyes a little bit to the idea that some of the things they believe in might be harming themselves and might be harming others. Now, obviously, if I were to ask people, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to know the truth or would you prefer to die? Truth or death? People are going to say, well, truth. Nobody wants to die. But so it should be an easy choice for people to make. But people can't let go of their beliefs. And people are quite happy to follow their beliefs all the way up to their own death. And often people die believing that they're making the right choice, even when they die, even when they cause the death of others. So I'm going to go into some specifics here, and I'm hoping that some of these specifics here, people are going to be able to open their minds up to these possibilities, rather than just sticking with their beliefs and saying, oh, Rupert's on the other side of the belief system here, so I'm not interested. So let's see. There are various different beliefs that I could talk about here. One of the things that I have seen a lot is a lot of people are not just happy keeping their beliefs to themselves, they want to give their beliefs to others. There's something psychologically comforting about interacting with people who share your beliefs. It adds as reinforcement that your beliefs are correct. At least theoretically it should, but in fact, humanity is a species of belief. We're a belief-based species. We haven't yet ascended to the level where we understand that believing in things without proof is invalid intellectually. And so as a species, we're still very, very primitive in that so many of the things we accept as being true have not been proved to any extent. And that's who we are as a species. And throughout history, we can see that whole societies, whole countries, the whole planet has believed in things that today we now know are incorrect. When somebody else believes the same things that we do, that is not any kind of evidence that we are correct. People used to believe the earth was flat. People used to kill thousands of witches at the stake for making people ill, when in fact it was viruses and harmful diseases that were killing people and not witches. So let's go into some specifics here. Somebody asked me the other day, what did I think about vaccines? See, we're gonna look at controversial stuff here, but if we're to grow wiser, then we need to be able to look at controversial things in a way that is wise, without hurting each other. Now, I am not attacking anybody here. I don't hate people who are on the other side of beliefs and reality than I am. I will still be your friends. And in fact, I am friends with the person who asked me this question: what do I think about vaccines? So we're putting peace first here. But my response was, well, tell me how vaccines work. And the person wasn't able to tell me. They didn't know the science of vaccines. They didn't know the science of the specific vaccine that they were talking about, the COVID one. And it's a classic example of people not understanding things that they are forming opinions about. Now, there's nothing wrong with opinions. There's nothing wrong with theorizing. There's nothing wrong with having a best guess. But to form an opinion that is so strong that you accept it as being true without the knowledge to back it up, that's unwise. And when you're dealing with something like vaccines, which is directly affecting people's health, then you're at risk of dying when you don't need to, and you're at risk of killing other people or being responsible, contributing to the deaths of other people when it's an unwise thing to do, when you shouldn't be claiming knowledge when you don't have it. So if you're not able to talk me through the steps of how any vaccine actually works, like the science of how is it supposed to work, what is the science of it, then you should not be giving advice about vaccines. And so I told them my opinion about vaccines. And I'm talking as a scientist who studied the vaccine, various vaccines out there for various different things. And And I said, well, the vaccine that we're talking about, it's not a black and white thing. It's not something you can say the vaccine is always good. And it's not something you can say the vaccine is always bad. Good and bad are you have to extend the sentence or the question to good for who or bad for who. And the reality is that that vaccine, and probably all vaccines, are good for some people and bad for others. They have positive effects on some and they have negative effects on others. So first of all, the reality is we have to take away that black and white. And then we can look at the reality of what the vaccine is and how it works, and therefore what effect it has on viruses that are coming in. And the reality is that vaccines are designed to help the majority of people. And the reality is that I have seen through the data that I have looked at is that vaccines help more people than they hurt. So that's really my answer. It's a matter of probability. Taking the vaccine is a gamble, but it's a gamble that has a probability probably up in the 90s that it's going to help you. But there's also a small probability that your body will react badly to it. And there were cases of people who took the vaccine, and lots of vaccines, who had a negative reaction to it, even death. And I think that's true with any medications and drugs that are out there. They always tell you, this is what it's intended to do, but here are all the possible side effects. So the answer that I've just given to that question is takes a little bit, to be blunt, it takes a little bit of thinking, takes a little bit of processing. It takes scientific knowledge, not opinion, not belief. It takes scientific knowledge. And then it takes the ability to let go of what you want the truth to be. We want it to support this political party or this political party. Well, you know what? The COVID vaccine, that wasn't an American thing. That was a worldwide thing that was happening in lots of different countries. And American politics is only American politics to Americans. And all around the world, there were a lot of people looking at the US in astonishment at how unscientifically the US was looking at, was handling the COVID situation. Now, I have certain political leanings, but I don't really consider myself political. And I consider myself sufficiently apolitical to be able to have looked at both main parties in the US and think, why is nobody actually teaching the science of this to the public? What was happening was the different politicians were standing up and making judgments, saying, this is what I think we should do, this is what I think we should do. Very few politicians were saying, well, in order to make an informed judgment, you need to be informed, and this is the full science. Why was the government not making documentaries about the science, about the truth of the science of this, and telling us the truth? And the answer is, a lot of people don't really want to know the truth. Whether it's the truth about viruses, whether it's the truth about masks, whether it's the truth about climate change, the different foods we eat, people tend not to want to expend the time and the energy to learn the truth of things. So I know a lot of people that say, oh, but it's not practical for us to take the time to learn these things properly. And I don't understand science anyway, so it's not practical. what people are saying is it's not practical. When people say that, they're saying it's not practical for them to know the truth. It's not practical for them to spend the time or give the energy to know the answer to the question. And in preference of that, people are saying, well, don't force me to do something that's not practical. I'm just going to believe something. But those beliefs are invalid. You can't have knowledge about something you don't understand, about something you don't know. So what I'm trying not to criticize, and I'm trying not to even take clear sides. What I'm trying to do is explain to people learning the truth requires time and effort, a little bit of energy, and mental effort to get to the answer. And so when somebody contacted me during the COVID pandemic, somebody that's been to some of my contact events, and I guess had respect for me, that they wanted to ask me, what do I think they should do? They said, should me and my fiance get vaccinated? And I gave the answer that I felt was correct. And I said, well, the science is clear that the probabilities are that this is good for people. And the COVID virus is a really nasty thing. And so, yeah, I recommend that the best option, the most probable option to result in health is to get vaccinated. And I shocked that person. I guess they thought in their belief system, they thought I was more of a spiritual person, more of a less materialistic, less bound to science. But they don't understand that reality is reality. Physical reality, spiritual reality, alien reality. I'm interested in reality. I'm not interested in belief systems. So that person went ahead and, they weren't rude to me or anything. They were surprised. They stated they're surprised that I was advocating the virus. And they told me, no, they're not going to get the virus. They think it's like a conspiracy and people are trying to inject computer chips into them and, bizarre things like that. And so they didn't get the virus. And then 2 or 3 months later, I was invited to the funeral of the fiance because she had got COVID and she hadn't got the vaccine and she had died. That person had died because of their beliefs. I'm not sure if that's true. Maybe that she died because of the beliefs of her fiance. It was him I was interacting with. And so things like that are sad to hear. And there are people who know little bits of science, like, yeah, we have an immune system, who will say things like, oh, well, that's why we have an immune system. We have an immune system so that we could deal with things like this. And they don't get the bigger scientific picture. Well, of course, we have an immune system. And that immune system sometimes is successful and sometimes isn't successful. Sometimes is successful in fighting off things and sometimes it isn't successful in fighting off things. And when something new comes along, which COVID was, because viruses evolve, everything is evolving, and viruses evolve in real time. You can see them adapting and evolving, and new viruses, jumping species. And that happens due to evolution of capabilities and characteristics. And viruses evolve and get worse. They get more effective. And same with bacteria. And bacteria are evolving quickly because we're using antibiotics at ridiculous levels in the food and dairy industry to keep those animals, which we keep in terrible conditions, healthy. And that is creating super bacteria because the bacteria evolve rapidly to be able to cope with that. The weaker ones die. The super bacteria that are antibiotic resistant are surviving and spreading. And now more and more people, when they get simple bacterial infections, the antibiotics don't work on them. And bacteria evolve, viruses evolve over short periods of time. And so when we're faced with something like COVID or the flu, the new strains come along all the time. That's evolution. And when our bodies, which has never encountered viruses before, those specific strains before encounter those strains, our bodies have never encountered that before. Our immune systems have never encountered that before. And so sometimes our immune systems can cope with that. Sometimes they can't. And these are scientific realities that a lot of people are not getting. The idea of wearing a mask should have been an easy test for people to understand, but it became politicized. And people's beliefs about how they wanted to live their lives and freedoms and things like this all got in the way of the simple truth that if you put a physical barrier in something, you reduce the probability of that thing getting through the barrier. When you have somebody coughing or sneezing, sending droplets of water carrying the virus into the air, that's what sneezing and coughing does. That's how viruses reproduce, transmit themselves easily. Those droplets of water being thrust out into the air, if the person who was doing the coughing or the sneezing was wearing a mask, certainly air can get around the edges, but droplets of water, well, most of them are stopped by any kind of mask. Most of them are stopped, and droplets do not continue and spread as easily. And somebody out there who is wearing a mask, the same thing. If they're breathing in air is going in through the mask, and the droplets containing the viruses get stopped by the mask. And sure, there's some probability of some droplets getting around the mask, but this is all about probabilities. You lower the probability of getting something from 80 down to about 3% just by wearing masks. That's simple reality. And yet I've got fewer people watching this podcast now than usually watch my podcast because their beliefs are getting in the way. And I've been watching people drop out. People's beliefs get in the way of truths that can help them and their family and the people they give advice to. So let's go through some more truths here. I wonder if I will be left with anybody watching this podcast by the end of it. And that's okay. I'm not trying to be popular. I'm not trying to have big numbers of followers. If I wanted lots of followers, I could just say what people like hearing. And that is, everybody's going to be okay if you just follow your gut feelings, you go with your beliefs, and what we think, if we're strong enough in our mind, in our convictions, then we can overpower even physical things like viruses. I can say things like that. It's not true, though. I have had some good friends over the years who have got cancer, and cancer sucks, and I feel very bad for those people. And we've got, physical things that cause physical cancer. Cancer is a physical thing that goes on in our bodies, and it's caused by physical things that in our environment, both outside of us and inside of us. Things that cause cancer are called carcinogens. And what I have learned over the years is that, sometimes people get cancer and it's not lifestyle choice. It's just bad luck. That happens. But a lot of the time, people whom I know who are getting cancer, I pause then because I've just had, just experienced the symptoms, the physiological conditions that tell me that I'm no longer alone. I've just had non-human beings join me. That's typical of what happens when I'm trying to do something that they approve of, and I'm trying to help people. And if I say this to people's faces who are at risk of cancer, who have got cancer, then they're not interested because it seems like a personal attack on their lifestyle. They don't want to admit that they've got cancer because of something they've done a lot of the time. I'm not trying to hurt people here. I'm doing this because I care about them and I want to help them. I was working a few years ago with a woman. I won't mention names, but I was working with a woman who got breast cancer, and her lifestyle choices in terms of the food that she ate, the drinks that she drank, they contained a lot of carcinogens, and she didn't know that. She went and got surgery and had a lot of it cut out, and she was seemed to recover, and she was okay. And at that point, I said to her, "Listen, I don't want to come across as like imposing. I don't want to impose anything on you. But if you wanted to, I could use my scientific understanding and knowledge to explain a few things to you about how food and drink are responsible for the state, the cancer epidemic that we've had in this in the US and also in other developed countries around the world for many decades. And it's completely mappable where the rate of cancer is increased and what causes the rate of cancer to increase. And with cancer, there's not just one cause. There are many different causes, but there are very clearly evidence, proof-based studies that show there is a direct correlation between eating and drinking meat and dairy products with getting cancer. They have isolated the molecules, casein or casein, depending on how you pronounce it, that is in milk and dairy that cause cancer. What the World Health Organization has put processed meats, for example, on their list of absolutely 100% confirmed carcinogens in the same category as cigarettes. And these are not facts that are taught to people in the US. Why? Well, there's a lot of people making a lot of money from selling things that hurt us, that are not good for us, that give us things like cancer. There's a lot of people making money from selling the food and the drink. There's a lot of people making money from the medicine and the medical industry that is then trying to solve those problems. It's very dark indications of human behavior that we're talking about here. But I'm just trying to tell you the truth. And I don't want you to listen to me and accept what I'm saying as true, because that would be then a belief. But you can learn the science of it. You can go and watch some documentaries to see that carcinogens include dairy and most meats, go away and watch James Cameron's documentary, The Game Changers. Go away and watch What the Health, Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy. There's a lot of them out there similar to those, but those are good ones to start with. And the more you learn, the more you will realize that the science is actually very clear on this subject. So my friend that I talked about, who had the cancer, I told her these things, and she listened and looked grateful to me, and then was, clearly around the place of work where I was working with her, eating dairy and meat products, and the cancer came back. And then she had to have parts completely chopped off. And I don't work there anymore, so I don't know, the final result. But this is how people are. They have their beliefs, their ways, their lifestyles. They find it very hard to change. There's somebody that I have a lot of love for who has cancer right now, who is a smoker, also meat and dairy consumer, and there's no way that this person would ever listen to me. This person is a wonderful person. I'm not going to mention names, but this person has their beliefs, and they're not going to stop smoking. They're not going to stop eating carcinogens. They're not going to stop drinking or consuming dairy. And so when I ask that question, truth or death, it's very hard for me to see and to watch people that I know and care about who are not consciously choosing death instead of the truth, but who think that what their truth is to them, the reality is that it's not truth, and that it's pushing them towards death. I know this is an intense subject, but if we're trying to help people, sometimes we need to address these really hard, deep, painful to consider subjects. I did have a friend about 5 or 6 years ago who was a good friend to me, and we would meet up whenever I passed through her area of the US, and she would come to my contact events, and many contact events, and very good friend, nothing romantic. She had a relationship with somebody else, and we didn't view each other in that way. But she struggled with health, and badly, she struggled with health, and she listened to me. She followed my advice, and her health was slowly getting better. And the contact events she loved, and that was giving her meaning. And I'm not mentioning names, so it's okay to say this. She was in an abusive relationship, so I was trying to help give her advice about that. And we had a good friendship, a good relationship, and I was keeping her alive and healthy. Her mother came to one of my contact events and thanked me for keeping her alive and keeping her healthy and giving her purpose. And because of the things that I say, and because I say these things publicly, some people out there hate me. Some people out there don't like me, and some people lied to her about me, and they told her lies about me, and she believed those lies. And we talked when this happened, and I told her that I can see where this is going, and I'm worried for her health. And I have had a premonition that she doesn't have much time now. One of the routes that she takes, she's actually not going to be alive if she goes in a certain direction. And it was health related issues, lifestyle related issues, and actually not about our friendship as such, but because she listened to other people, judged me to be evil, and walked away from me. She also walked away from the advice I was giving, and 3 months later she was dead. And those people, those dishonest people who pulled her away from me, they destroyed a friendship, they destroyed her life, they destroyed the life of her family. And everybody does what they think is right, and they think they were doing what was right. But when I look at people like that, I would describe that as evil. And but they thought they were doing the right thing, probably. I mean, I don't know. But they were doing what they were doing based on hatred, based on their own beliefs that were incorrect. And so what I'm hoping that people will do is, because I'm running out of time here now, I'm hoping that people can put aside religious views, political views. They can put aside their judgments of people. They can put aside their judgments of reality and really try to understand how to work out what is true. And in situations where you don't have the time or the energy or the intelligence or the education to figure out what is true, then certainly don't give advice to others. Certainly don't try and influence people to follow your path. And always be open to trying to learn the science of it, the reality of it. Science is a reality-based thing. Political scientists who work for politicians, no, not so much. But the science is clear on these things. Reality is there to be discovered. So, that's it. That's what I have to say today. I hope you will consider letting go of beliefs, knowing what you know, knowing what you don't know. And if you don't know something, try and learn the reality of it, the science of it, instead of just listening to people's beliefs, not from TikTok videos, YouTube videos, not from social media, but actually go and talk to a scientist, a professor, a research person, scientist. Go away and learn a science textbook. There are better alternatives than falling back on beliefs, because beliefs are invalid. Accepting something as being true without proof is invalid. I've gone over time, so I'm going to stop here. I wish you all peace, love, and well-being. You take care. Goodbye for now.